There's an update to the Tampa Bay Rays search for a new ballpark. Did Rob Manfred do more, or did he not do enough to keep the Rays potentially in Tampa? Is the NFL schedule becoming the Grinch around Christmas time, as some teams now play 3 games in 11 days? The new NBA All-Star Game format has already begun to burn away and eat away at some players, including one NBA star player. What is college football doing about NIL incentives, giving their coaches pay cuts? And will the NWSL expand to Denver, Colorado, as cities now make their last-ditch efforts to secure the league's 16th franchise? That and more coming your way on Press Row on a Tuesday night, right here and right now. This Coast to Coast Entertainment Network program is brought to you by Beside Me Bracelets. Our bracelets are handmade for any occasion. Use the promo code Coast to Coast for 15% off. Visit their website at besideme.com. Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. With 24-hour shopping available, use the code 160920 and show her some love, like she showed us. Reaper Apparel Company, a commitment to live your most authentic way every single day. Visit reaperapparelco.com for more information and a look at all of their apparel offerings. And by Good Day Embroidery, your local source for custom embroidery, screen printing, and more. Log on to gooddayembroidery.com for more information. Hello again, everybody. Happy Tuesday and welcome into another live edition of Press Row, covering all the big sports news and stories involving the sports business and sports media landscape. Yours truly, Callan McClurg, back with you folks here in San Diego. Had to call off last night's program. Again, got some of that very weird late winter season allergy reaction going on, sadly. So had to take last night off with James, but we'll come back at you folks, though, for our last show before the new year, and our Christmas break will take place coming up next week on December 23rd. But glad to be back with you folks here in studio here tonight on this Tuesday. Again, we have a lot of great topics on the table for you here in baseball, the NFL, the NBA, in college football, and also in professional women's soccer as well. But if you're joining us here, folks, late on a Tuesday night, maybe in an early Wednesday morning here on this Tuesday here on Press Row, again, we advise you again to send us your input again, questions, comments, concerns, hot takes, cold takes, all that in the live chat box. We'll do our absolute best to ensure that your commentary, as always, is read live on the air here this evening on this Tuesday. With that in mind, everybody, let's dive into the big board of topics today for our program here tonight. Again, folks, we are passing along an update. We have someone that we've been really following this Tampa Bay Rays stadium debacle, stadium dilemma pretty closely. And we can report, though, some sounds like positive news for the Rays and for the franchise. But the Pinellas County Commission has now voted as of Tuesday 5-2 to now approve the $312.5 million in bonds for the new $1.3 billion ballpark for the Tampa Bay Rays, following support from MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred, who actually went down to St. Petersburg and talked to the county commission face-to-face within the last days or so. This decision, though, of course, comes, though, after days and a St. Petersburg City Council approval of about $287.5 million in bonds for the same exact project. New commissioner members Chris Shearer and Vince Nowicki opposed the deal, citing concerns after Hurricane Milton's damage that, of course, we saw the photos, though, folks, that came out of the damage done to Tropicana Field. However, though, in a very interesting change of mood, Commissioner Chris Lavala changed from opposition to support, influenced by his meeting with Commissioner Manfred, expressing hope, though, for a new owner for the Rays and not giving trust to current Rays owner Stu Sternberg. Despite these approvals, though, the Rays still face concerns about their financial responsibility for the remaining $700 million and potential cost overruns, which might delay the ballpark opening by 1 year to 2029, while the team may now consider bringing in new minority partners to help cover the cost of the new ballpark. So again, folks, this has been a very somewhat hot commodity talking point on Press Row. I'd say the last maybe 5 to 6 shows we've done here, because it has gone from great to, oh my goodness, to what's going to happen next, to now here we are again, back now in what seems like good graces. And I think if we went back and talked and look back at at one of our episodes, I'd say 2 to 3 weeks ago, we were all of a sudden like jumping off cliffs, it seemed like, because now we were in a position a couple weeks ago where the commission gets this threatening letter from the Rays and really body slammed the commission of the county for the vote, and then them holding the money back. Then, as I also said, that they had kept, in a way, decreasing the number or the amount of money that they would give the Rays to redo Tropicana Field. It went from, I think, $55 million to $28 million down to like $25 or $23 million. But now all it takes, though, is Rob Manfred, the commissioner, to fly down to St. Petersburg, Florida, where he probably couldn't find it on a damn map, for heaven's sakes, to talk to the county commission in person and persuade them to change their minds, where he, believe it or not, does flip a commission vote from no to yay, while 2 people, to their credit again, Chris Sheeter and Vince Nowicki, say, no, I'm still not a part of this because let's take care of our people first. That doesn't require the ballpark. I want to get the infrastructure back up and running. I want roads repaired. I want the drainage systems to be fixed around the city. You know, more important stuff away from the game of baseball. I do have a problem with this, though. Commissioner Manfred, why in the HE double hockey sticks did you not do this for Oakland, California? Why did you just say so many times, yeah, we don't need Oakland. We'll move to Vegas. But yet, because this is an East Coast franchise, you will fly out of your luxury suite in Manhattan, New York, at your front office to save a franchise in Florida. But you wouldn't do the same thing for a franchise on the West Coast, where both these teams are in the same exact spot when it comes to slim payrolls, when it comes to, in a way, trading away superstar players because, oh, we can't afford them on the budgets. That's my only gripe here about this whole thing. You know, why does the West Coast get half-ass support from Commissioner Manfred? But heaven forbid a team on the East Coast, they get full support. That's where I think the commissioner's office screwed this up. Though I am extremely happy to see that we've now made some progress here with the Rays, this just makes the Oakland situation that much more worse. Especially now that the A's all of a sudden are spending money on free agents like Luis Severino. But I would still be a little bit concerned and a little bit cautious. So, okay, let's kind of go bullet point by bullet point here. Bullet point 1, based off Manfred's meeting face-to-face with the county commission, the vote now goes to a yay vote to approve the bonds for the new stadium. Again, this comes, though, in wake of what we had talked about a couple of shows ago, detailing delays, detailing the approval for about 3/4 of the money. But then 2 new members say, no, I don't want this. I don't care about baseball right now. We have to worry about our citizens of our county because of this damn hurricane. But then when you hear, though, that Commissioner Chris Lavala changes from no to yes because he hears about Manfred coming and the meeting. But now, though, folks, bullet point 3, bullet point 4, bullet point 5. This is what John Fisher should have done, though. Though I did just blame Manfred about 5 minutes ago in this segment. This reminds me a little bit of Star Wars Episode 1. If you're a Star Wars geek like I am. Do you recall the scene when they are having the giant meeting of the head honchos on Naboo or on Tatooine or Coruscant? The big meeting of all the head honchos when we first get introduced in a way to Sheev Palpatine. Does anyone remember, though, when Padme Amidala stands up and says that I vote or I'm going to be casting a vote of no confidence in Chancellor Valorum? That is what this whole thing sounds like now all of a sudden. This now sounds like the county commission's on board, but we have a vote of no confidence in the Rays owner. Because bullet point 4, can a franchise like the Tampa Bay Rays really fork out $700 million for construction cost overruns to keep the franchise in St. Petersburg? That's where I think the last bullet point comes into play. You may have to now look at getting other people on board around town. Maybe you reach out to the Lightning or the Bucks to maybe get some support for a minority stake in the franchise, or the Tampa Bay Rowdies. But there's going to have to be someone that steps in here and helps Stu Steinberg with this entire mess. Because I still think a lot of damage was done when the Rays sent that very threatening letter to the county commission a couple of shows ago. And they basically said, no, we're going to walk away from this. Because I believe, folks, today, on Tuesday, December 17th, as I said, today would have been a very big fork in the road. I recall, I believe, saying, though, that if it would have been vote is postponed for a third time, this plane would be dead. So it was either go one way or go the other way. And they went the right way, I think, to, at least right now, maybe calm the waters a bit about the club leaving town. Just would have wished John Fisher and the A's would have had a better fate. As much as we all love to blame John Fisher, but at least the commissioner's office could have at least done the same damn thing and not just called the ballpark in Oakland a trash hole or whatever he called it. But this, though, is huge for Tampa Bay, huge for St. Petersburg, and it's huge across the board right now for that fan base. But Rob Manfred could have done more to stick his neck out for Oakland. Not trash the city, not trash the city council. All you had to do was go and have a face-to-face meeting with the great people of Oakland, and maybe they would have actually gotten something done. Instead, no, let's move them to a AAA ballpark in West Sacramento, California, and maybe, hopefully, they can pay for the new ballpark in Vegas. But I think now that the ultimatum has been kind of in a way now given to Stu Steinberg, now you have to consider finding outside sources to help you fund this project. And I don't know what that looks like. Is it maybe some help from the Glazer family who operates the Buccaneers? Is it maybe help from the ownership group of the Lightning who've been very successful? What's it going to be? Some billionaire who lives down in the Tampa area who loves baseball? But at least, though, that Tuesday can kind of, in a way, make Tampa Bay Ray and Tampa Bay baseball fans kind of inhale, exhale a little bit. Because now it sounds a little bit more promising and not as grim as it was a few shows ago here on PR, where we were like at the very bottom of the barrel to now kind of, climbing back to the top of the mountain. I also think, though, that having a commissioner flip their vote from no to yay is humongous. But again, it does go back, though, to my weird comparison about Padme Amidala saying, vote of no confidence for Chancellor Valorum. That, though, about hoping for a new owner for the Rays, that could be a very interesting domino effect. Because now that that's come out publicly, does that now lead to more infighting between the club and the city and the county commission? But this is at least a good starting point, not a great starting point, but it's a good starting point with the vote going 5-2 in favor of approving the bonds for the new ballpark for the Rays. This is after the commissioner goes down there and meets face-to-face with the county commission office. But again, 2 people holding out still with no votes. I get though why. Hurricane damage to the city means more than fixing the ballpark and about baseball. But then having the commissioner change their vote from no to yes is huge. But again, we don't want Valorum. We want Palpatine. I don't want Stu Steinberg running this organization. I want somebody new. And again, though, the main last bullet point will be, can the Rays deliver? About $700 million in potential cost overruns. Which, like I said, though, a few shows ago now would concern me. Now we would have to wait maybe another year for the ballpark to open up until 2029. Whereas mentioned, maybe the Glazers get involved, the Lightning ownership gets involved, or some big, mogul with money coming out of their Brinks trucks can help the Rays finance this new ballpark. But this is a good starting point. I still don't quite feel fully fledged like, yeah, this sounds really promising, because now I really feel like, though, that with the county commission kind of saying, I'll change my vote, but I don't want this guy to be running this organization because he attacked me and my job in this letter that we got a couple weeks ago when we postponed the bond vote the second time around. So I'll be interested to see if that actually does kind of carry over. I would hope not. I would think not, because of the fact they have the approval vote in place. Bang, bang, bang. Check all the boxes, go from there. But this is a good starting point, though, for the Rays, and hopefully it will lead to some more good things for the Rays going forward here very soon. We will now, everyone, segue over here to the NFL. Please bend, but don't break. 4 top NFL teams are now facing a scheduling crunch as they now play 3 games in 11 days as the Christmas holiday comes up next Wednesday. This includes the Chiefs, Steelers, Ravens, and Texans, who compete in crucial matchups for the playoffs coming up as early as this Saturday. The games are going to be tightly packed with matchups on December 25th set for Netflix, allowing for an unusual Wednesday game for the NFL. But as the scheduling does unfold, though, injuries are affecting key players like Patrick Mahomes, who expressed concerns about the grueling schedule and later suffered a sprained ankle, which could prevent him from playing in upcoming games for the Chiefs. Also, in a similar fashion, Steelers linebacker T.J. Watt was also injured when he hurt his ankle, leaving his status for their game uncertain for the weekend. The outcomes of this game will greatly and significantly impact playoff seeding, while the Bills, who have a normal schedule, might benefit from a situation ahead of Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Houston. This was my concern. I am not an NFL fan, as you folks know very well, but this was my concern. James and I talked about this a little bit in passing, I believe, a couple shows ago on C2C at Night, where I don't understand this logic because of this reason. Now, all of a sudden, because, we got to overthrow the NBA on Christmas Day in the middle of the week on a Wednesday, let's compact it in where we have multiple games in only 11 days. I know these players are accustomed to it, folks, but my goodness gracious, I really now fear about the physical toll that this game does to you. And if we need any examples, folks, 2 of them are in plain writing on screen in bullet points 2 or bullet points 3 and 4. Patrick Mahomes, T.J. Watt. Or this maybe again gives a small little bit of a advantage to the Bills. However, this could be a very big, impactful weekend. Someone's bid for the number 1 seed will be broken this weekend and over the next 11 days, if not more. And the big gripe I've always been hearing about the NBA Cup, which came to an end on Tuesday, was, well, we got Milwaukee, KC, Callan, we have no star power. But look at the NFL. We get all these games on Christmas Day or on Saturday. Yet now Pat Mahomes and T.J. Watt are injured. There is a chance one or both of those players may or may not play. I'm sure, though, the ratings will be great. But it's not good business, though, if you ask me, as an outsider to the NFL, to have that many games for these teams in this short span of time when it's this grueling of a sport. There's a reason that the NHL does not play 3 games in a row or 3 games in 5 days. There's a reason Major League Soccer and soccer doesn't play multiple games in a week. Or there is substantial time in between games, more than 11 days. And the other bugaboo I have here is that these games are on Netflix. And I said here a couple weeks ago, if we have the same exact crap show of that Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight card on Netflix with everybody and their mother and brother and sister-in-law watching the card, and it keeps buffering, the sound doesn't work, you have to exit and re-enter, NFL fans will throw a riot if that happens. Especially when you have people that are putting money down on these games to maybe help buy Christmas gifts for their family. With all the wagering going on. And with the explosion of fantasy sports, someone's going to lose their mind if they can't watch a big play to see how their fantasy quarterback's doing. And I would be concerned, though, if I'm an NFL fan and obviously a fan of these teams, if one of our other key guys goes down during this weird stretch of games, I would be ticked. I would be pissed. Win or lose, I would be infuriated because, oh, well, great. Now we're going to have Isaiah Pacheco out for the season because they had to play a game on Saturday and a game in the middle of the week on a Wednesday. And this goes back to a point I told James once about the NFL is just oversaturating the television market now. I didn't watch the Black Friday game. I was at work all day. And I really could have cared less to watch the flippin' Raiders play the Chiefs. Yeah, the Raiders got close, but they still don't know how to win games. There's a reason why they're 2-12. Now, the games are pretty sexy with matchups. I mean, I'm not going to discredit that. But if the Chiefs lose Kelsey, if Pittsburgh loses Najee Harris, if the Ravens lose Lamar Jackson or Houston loses C.J. Stroud, as a fan of those teams, I would be ticked for the quick turnarounds that these guys have had over the past for the past week. Again, call me soft, call me this, call me that. I really don't care. I'm viewing it more for the fact of the physical and mental toll that this game takes on players. I know that Pat Mahomes is a gamer, but I would tell him, you're sitting down, pal. We can't run the risk of you getting hurt like you did 2 years ago in the postseason when you had, the same jarred ankle. If I'm Pittsburgh, I'm telling TJ Watt, sit down. I know we're down to the stretch, but we can't afford to lose you or lose anybody else because of injuries. And believe it or not, folks, when the players have their own concerns, I think we should listen to it. Not laugh, react on Facebook or troll them with GIFs in the comments on Instagram or Facebook. Imagine the average Joe going out there and playing 3 games in 11 days, and then maybe they might understand. And again, I just don't understand the NFL's fixation with now ruining Christmas Day for sports fans who probably who want a break on a Wednesday. Stay in your lane. Play on Thursday, play the occasional Saturday, and play on Sunday and play on Monday. But don't be out here spoiling NBA Christmas Day. Yes, I know that Mr. Gonzalez will not watch the NBA on Christmas Day, but I know that I will. But this is kind of, in a way, a bit of a red flag. Just mainly for the fact of I care that no one else gets hurt. Excuse me. But this is, though, a pretty tough crunch to put these players through. 3 games, 11 days. And I'm looking more, though I am not an NFL fan, what could the ramifications be for the postseason if someone's quarterback or running back or top wide receiver or top defensive player goes down with an injury and they're done for the season? That's more of why I would be concerned. Again, I would, if I was king, I would tell Watt and Mahomes, you're sitting down. We're not going to run the risk of you getting injured by a team we could face in the postseason. Let's not show them our hand before we get to the playoffs. Maybe throw Carson Wentz in there if you're Kansas City or whoever your backup quarterback is. Put DB2 in or LB2 in for TJ Watt. But again, you can't run the risk. I know that you're playing for seeding, you're playing for this, you're playing for that, you're playing for home field advantage in the wild card round and all this other stuff. I know it's the gamble that you take. But I would rather see these teams be smart about it and not run these guys out there, especially if it gets worse. But I just don't agree, though, with the scheduling here. I know that we also have the start of bowl season that happened today in Frisco, Texas on a Tuesday here today. I know we have the bowl games coming up. Friday will be the first day, I believe, of the first round for the play-in games for the newly formed 12-team CFP. But now it just feels like the NBA, or the NFL, I should say, the NFL, as I told James a few weeks ago when we talked about the NFL on Christmas Day, it now really does feel like that this is a way big overreach for the NFL. It feels that way, like I've said before, just with the fact, again, of a game on a Wednesday just because you have to beat the NBA in ratings. But I think, though, I'd be more ticked off and concerned, though, about this being on Netflix. Like I said, if we have to sit through the same sham of that Paul and Tyson fight card where it's buffering every 30 seconds, the sound doesn't work, the pitcher glitches, I'll tell you what, that the NFL fan base would be in full-fledged riot mode. I think it'd be a lot more hysterical than Cowboy fans shattering televisions. I think we'll have more if that stuff comes to limelight again. Again, I just think that the NFL is grabbing at straws. Yes, complain about the NBA Cup, complain about this, complain about that with basketball. Again, to me, it just does not feel right for the NFL to play games on Christmas Day unless it's a Thursday or Sunday. Not the middle of the week. Whereas I've said, I'm concerned about a short turnaround for a team who maybe plays on Saturday or Sunday. You've got 2 days to recover, rest, recoup, travel, and go through practice to play again on Christmas Day. I don't buy the NFL playing on a Wednesday. This is definitely not one of their better ideas in recent memory. And if someone else gets hurt and costs their team a chance in the postseason, we can all say, well, you shouldn't have played on a Wednesday. How about that? But regardless, though, you got to play the games. And, I think if you ask Andy Reid, Pat Mahomes, Mike Tomlin, Russell Wilson, John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson, D'Amico Ryans, and C.J. Stroud, we got to play the game. You just hope that nothing goes bad here. And I know that I will hope and pray that it does not happen, and I'm sure it won't. But it's just a little bit it's too much for me to see a sport like football go from, Saturday, to, Sunday, Monday, Thursday, on a routine. Now let's throw a wrench in the plans of everybody and put a game on Christmas Day on a Wednesday because we have to beat the NBA in ratings. And it could be worse if it's on Netflix. We have the same, show happen from the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight card. as I've been saying here for the past couple of minutes. Let's now, folks, go from the NFL to the NBA. And of course, folks, this has been met with much resentment by one star player already, but the NBA All-Star Game has again tweaked their format and has been strongly already denounced and disliked by Sun star Kevin Durant, who told local media and national reporters that he expressed his strong disliking of the NBA's new All-Star Game format, which will include a mini tournament with 4 teams. Kevin criticized the changes, stating that I hate it. I absolutely hate it, open and close quote, and suggested going back to a regular, ordinary East-West format. The NBA further announced that the All-Star Game would consist of the 24-man roster split into 3 teams of 8 players, with a 4th team coming from the Rising Stars Challenge. TNT analyst Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley, and Kenny Smith will draft the teams instead of the usual player drafts. The All-Star Sunday will feature 2 semifinals and a championship game with all played to 40 points. There is a prize pool of $1.8 million, with players on the winning team receiving $125K. The league has also struggled mightily to maintain excitement for the All-Star Game, especially with players often choosing not to play defense. The last engaging game was in 2020, highlighting the ongoing challenge of fostering competitive play. The success of this new format hinges on player commitment, and Durant's feedback suggests potential difficulties do lie ahead. I also can confirm, by the way, that Candace Parker will be the GM of the Rising Stars team, who wins the Rising Stars game on Saturday night. So we have the most broken All-Star game in pro sports right now in North America. That now becomes the Callan McClurg NBA Cup 2.0. Let's just call it what it is. So now let's take all of our disdain from the Emirates NBA Cup that went to the Milwaukee Bucks on Tuesday. Now let's throw it at this new All-Star Game format, shall we? The NBA is already in a world of trouble. You just had one of your biggest star players say, I hate this format. What the hell are we doing? And the format makes no sense. This basically becomes NBA Cup 2.0 in San Francisco for the All-Star Game. You're telling me 4 years ago was the last engaging NBA All-Star Game coming out of the COVID pandemic or before COVID hit? I don't know what else, folks, we could do. And this just does not sound appetizing. You know, you could say it's, you could say I'm being two-faced here when I say that I love the NBA Cup, but I don't like the All-Star Game format. We're hearing it from the players first and foremost, folks. If one of the last remaining old guard players of LeBron and Curry and now KD, with one of them saying that they already hate the format, that should be raising concerns if you're Adam Silver. I mean, do we really expect anything to change with this format? Do we have to keep putting more and more and more money on the line for these guys to play? This was not the right way to go about fixing the All-Star Game format. I mean, you could keep the money incentives, but why not just make it a damn East versus West game? You know, and I remember I ranted pretty well and said I would defend the NBA Cup like I defend women's sports and defend hockey. But I'm not going to defend this All-Star Game format. I know that might be a very weird thing, call me a two-faced individual. I mean, the NBA Cup adds drama. The All-Star Game, it's a meaningless exhibition game. And I think that we have all agreed on this network that the NFL Pro Bowl and the NBA All-Star Games are the 2 most unfixable games out there. I mean, I recall vividly last year when Anthony Davis said, we love the game, but we're not going to play the game at Game 7 speed like it's the playoffs. Now we have Kevin Durant this year in 7 words. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Open and close quote, take it to the bank. Now is this little now is it a little bit of a bargaining chip or like a little nice little farewell bittersweet symphony by the Verve to have Kenny and Shaq and Chuck pick the teams because it's going to be on TNT and they're going to lose the rights after the season? Maybe. I just think that this is becoming more and more watered down. Again, you can call it what you want about the NBA Cup, folks. This is not the right way for an all-star game. East versus West, make them play, and if they don't play, you fine them. You suspend them. You do something. But I'll tell you this much, folks. There's a lot of other different problems that is not just affecting the NBA. And the NBA Cup is not a problem, regardless of what anyone thinks. This all-star game format is a problem. Load management. Injury bugs biting teams. I have a very intriguing story later on in the show that you may or may not disagree with. But I frown upon this all-star game change. See, folks, I wasn't going to talk about the NBA Cup tonight. I was going to. Because FOS had a story but said that players have bought into the tournament. Now, again, he can, rain on my parade by saying they should buy in for the regular season. Yes, they should. I am not discounting that. But the NBA Cup needs three things. It needs time, tradition, and patience. Patience. Like I said last week, it's not a prolonged 6-month ordeal. It's not like the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, where it's a 95 to 100 team tournament for soccer, where every level of the American soccer pyramid plays a 1-game knockout round style tournament to win the championship. That takes about 3 to 5 months to finish. But I don't know what the NBA can do for the All-Star game. I mean, maybe you do reconsider moving the NBA Cup to February. Or maybe what you do is you play the group play rounds in November and December. And then why not just make All-Star Week the NBA Cup knockout rounds, the quarterfinals, the semis, and the finals? That might be better for all that I know. And if guys don't want to play in the All-Star game, then just move the NBA Cup knockout rounds, like I just said, make it the All-Star Week instead. And sadly, in a way, screw the All-Star game and drop it like a bad habit. That might be more enticing than this new, weeble wobble rinky dink format. This feels too much like recess basketball with your friends in high school. If someone's feelings going to get hurt if Shaq doesn't draft them or they get picked last or any of that, baloney going to happen. I think I'd like that a lot better. And one better caveat. Instead of going to Vegas for the finals and semifinals, you pick a host city like the All-Star game. That'd be way cooler, I think, maybe, than having an All-Star game. As much as everyone wants to hate on the in-season tournament, that might be a thing that saves the All-Star weekend or All-Star week. Just forget the game. Because we always talk about how these guys don't want to play regular season games and load management and this and that and this and that. So here's your incentive. If your team doesn't make the knockout round, sit on your ass for the week and rest and not play. You don't have to worry about it. I like that idea a lot better. Use November and use December for the group play round. Maybe make it longer. Then you don't do anything until All-Star weekend. Or at least what you probably do, now that I think about it, Group stage happens in November. December, you use that for the first round knockout. Then come All-Star Weekend, semis and finals, and you pick a host city like the All-Star game. That'd be a lot better, I think, than playing this phony baloney, oh, I got picked last All-Star game. This just does not sound like a great idea. Again, call it what you want about it being maybe a throne bone, the way of TNT because they're losing the media rights by having Shaq and Kenny and Chuck pick the teams. And my go-to girl, Candace Parker, draft the team of rising stars. And about the prize pool and all this and that. But this is still at the very bottom of the barrel when it comes to NBA problems. Load management is, a thing. Guys don't want to play the regular season. I don't know. I just think though that when you already have one star player bark up the tree of I hate this crap, you're in trouble. And I think if you get LeBron on board with that notion and Steph on that notion and other star players, I think the NBA will probably have to reconsider their options. I really do. I think the last bullet point is so true, though, that the success of the new format will hinge, though, on player commitment. All I hear in my head is Anthony Davis. We love the All-Star game, but don't expect us to play the game at Game 7 speed in the playoffs. So we can't risk getting hurt. So kind of in a way, we have Anthony Davis last season, and now Kevin Durant this year. We have two bona fide superstar players say, it doesn't matter the All-Star game format. I don't like it. I hate it. Now, you could probably say, well, AD said it just to save face because he always hurt. Okay. But when a star player like Kevin Durant says a 7-word sentence, I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Just a couple of hours after the official announcement, other players will follow suit and probably agree with Kevin Durant. Because I can only imagine Joel Embiid gets picked last by Chuck or Shaq, and he goes into boo-boo mode. I got picked last. Yeah, nobody likes me. Does the NBA really want that sideshow of BS to happen at the All-Star game event? Where guys are like draking it in their feelings just because he got picked last or got picked by a certain player or picked by a certain TNT personality? I just feel like it waters down the product and further hurts player and media relations. Because we have 3 airheads on TNT picking teams. And again, my last talking point here, later on in the show, it will probably rattle your cage. Hello to our good man, Brandon Herrera, who says, Cal, solution, mix current players and former players to make up 2 teams to play the game. That might be interesting, Brandon. That kind of sounds like the Shooting Stars Challenge, where I believe at one point it was a NBA player, a WNBA player, and that franchise is like franchise superstar. I recall one year it was Lisa Leslie, Kobe, and Magic for the Lakers, and I think the Suns had Connie Hawkins, Michelle Timms, and Steve Nash in 96. That'd be interesting, Brandon, but I don't think that'll work, sadly. I still think I like my idea better of just forget the game, move the NBA Cup semifinals and the NBA Cup finals to the All-Star weekend, and pick a host city every year and do it that way. Because like I said, because I think, Brandon, the last bullet point says it right, though. The success of the All-Star game will hinge on player commitment. Kevin Durant already said in 7 words, I hate this. What are we doing in a roundabout way? So already that feedback is already -1. Durant's not on board. East versus West, or drop the game. But again, Brandon, I don't see a clear path forward. And I think if more players still, if more players come out and resent the format, then the NBA is in trouble. Where I would just go and say, move the semifinals and the final game of the NBA Cup tournament to the All-Star weekend and forget about it. Put the All-Star game in the grave and just call it quits. And let's let the Callan McClurg NBA Cup become the new All-Star event. I think the NBA can survive without the All-Star game. We already see them play enough as is on Team USA or for their respective countries over in the Olympics. I don't want USA versus the world, sadly. The NHL tried it. It really didn't work to its full potential for about 5 to 7 years. But that was North America versus the world. I just think, again, that there will be major blowback, because what if there is a player that gets picked last and they go on national TV and they're bawling their eyes out because they got their feelings hurt? Is that good for business if you're the NBA? Especially when Shaq and Chuck and Kenny are best known for kind of, in a way, teasing players. I'll get to more about that later on. Brandon further agrees that, Cal, the idea to move the NBA Cup is a great idea. I think so, Brandon. Don't get me wrong, though. I love the idea of having it in Vegas. It's a neutral floor, neutral court. I did ask my good friend DJ Shauna from the Bucks if she was able to go to the event or if she was able to work it, and she said no. The NBA produces it the NBA produces it, so it's a neutral game. There's no favoritism for either team when they go to the NBA Cup semis or the finals, which I think is only fair. And Brandon also says that this is the reason why MLB is still the best All-Star game around. I agree. Major League Baseball, Major League Soccer, the NHL. I still think that. And I don't see the NBA or NFL getting out of that hole anytime soon at this rate. Well, now, folks, move back to football, but over in college. Some pay cuts are going on here to help fund NILs, it sounds like, as colleges and universities are preparing for revenue sharing to pay athletes directly, looking for ways to gather millions of dollars at this time. One approach, cut the salaries of those football head coaches who are struggling. Notably, that includes Florida State's Mike Norvell, Oklahoma State's Mike Gundy, and LSU's Brian Kelly, who have all seen their salaries reduced within the last week or two. The ongoing House versus NC2A settlement could also allow payments to be made to athletes up to $22 million next season, prompting the schools to explore new fundraising methods. Coach Novell also restructured his contract to support a $4.5 million fundraising campaign, and Gundy took a $1 million pay cut to redistribute funds for player revenue sharing. Brian Kelly also pledged to match up to $1 million in donations for an NIL collective. With over 20 coaches earning more than $7 million a year, the trend suggests that coaching salaries may increasingly depend on their winning performance rather than anything else of accolades. Again, folks, this is the gray area that we're entering when it comes to NILs, when it comes to direct payments down to student athletes beginning as early as next season. And one thing, folks, that always happens, I think, around this time of the year, though, is the word buyout. Not fired, but the boosters, the alums, and the donors raise $1 gazillion, it seems like, to buy out a coach who's not getting the job done. And I really believe, though I probably will miss the CFP games on Friday, I am of the belief, though, if Ohio State gets bounced out by Tennessee, Ryan Day will be fired. Because I always say, folks, in college athletics, more so than any other sport out there, but in college sports, mainly in football probably, and maybe in college basketball, if you're not winning games, and if you don't beat that rival university, a la Ryan Day not beating Michigan 4 years in a row, the city gets the city gets ticked off, the fans are upset, the boosters are upset, the alumni get pissed off, and the donors want to put their money elsewhere. So I really believe that Ryan Day will coach for his Ohio State job security if they don't beat Tennessee on Friday or Saturday this week. And Brandon is asking, wait a second, a pay cut? I thought the NIL money came from sponsorship outside of the college. Brandon, it's not really clear. There's talk that it is when it comes through a athletic fund, for example. But I also, Brandon, know that every sport gets their own bucket or pot of money. The NIL money, Brandon, is not for the entire department of athletics. Your football team has their own pot. Basketball has their own pot. Soccer, volleyball, tennis, you name it. They all have their own buckets of money. So not every program is getting the share of the full pot. They're getting a few dollars here, but not the full-fledged budget of football. And Brandon, some schools don't have NIL at their disposal yet, or it's just starting out, like my university. We're very young in this new NIL era at USD and even at San Diego State and at UC San Diego. Brandon, for perspective, Brandon, Brian Dutcher, legendary coach with Steve Fisher at Michigan, now the head coach at SDSU for men's basketball. Coach Dutcher is the highest paid California State University employee with his average annual salary of like $10.5 million. The basketball coach at San Diego State University is paid more than the school president and school chancellor at San Diego State, and he's the highest paid employee in the entire state of California for CSUs. And Brandon, coaches will have to start doing this to keep their programs afloat. That's why I'm kind of leery about Bill Belichick going to UNC. Yes, great coach, I know, his success. But a coach who's never coached in college, I think he's up for the challenge, but it's going to be a little bit tough sledding early on. But now you have to look at new ways to raise money. You know, I know at my university that the cheapest donation is $100 you can give to any of our 17 programs at USD. But this is now how you have to keep players. And maybe some sacrifices have to be made by some of these overpaid coaches. Football coaches, basketball coaches, you name it. And yes, winning on the field means a lot. But nowadays, I think that we've seen a major shift. Kids aren't in it now, sadly, for the 4 years that they're supposed to be at the school. I think of Danny O'Neal, who was the freshman quarterback at SDSU, who signed at Wisconsin, jumped in the portal on Monday, and is on his way out to Wisconsin. But it wasn't NIL reasons. He's from that part of the country. He went home. And I don't think you can really blame an athlete for wanting to go back to be closer to home. That was partially why I chose not to go back to my D2 school after 8 years, because the university I work at now is literally 10 minutes away from my house. But again, this will be very interesting, folks, to see what really comes out of this. But I applaud these coaches who've been around for a long time, like Norvell and Kelly and Gundy. Because I know damn well. I think back, folks, to when Missouri's head football coach was asked at the start of the season, after all the moves were made to realign conferences and all the schools jumped ship, that he said, you know, this is great for me and my program, but did anyone in our department talk to the soccer teams, the baseball teams who have to do more traveling than us? And I think deep down, that's what those three guys may have felt. Probably not. I could be wrong. But I do think, though, that Gundy and Kelly and Norvell taking pay cuts, though, is huge. Because now that gives some more money, in a way, to other programs on campus. But that settlement, though, folks, coming next year, though, to pay $22 million to athletes beginning next season, you got to get more creative now if you're going to be, trying to get kids to stay put and stay at your university. But now I think winning becomes back to the forefront now. Especially the last bullet point that 20 coaches make more than $7 million a year. Again, I really think Ryan Day coaches for his life when they play Tennessee. And if they lose, I think he is done. Because how much longer will the great people of Columbus tolerate losing to Michigan and then lose in round one of the newly formed 12-team playoff when they demand excellence in Columbus? But again, folks, we'll keep an eye on this story, though. It's going to be very, very, very interesting to see what really comes out of this. But right now, this is the first domino, I think, when it comes to salaries and also when it comes to NIL collectives. That some sacrifices will have to be made as time goes on here. We'll move now, folks, to some more expansion talk involving the National Women's Soccer League, who is now in deep exclusive talks now with Denver, Colorado, for a potential new expansion franchise, as they are also competing head-on with bids from Cleveland and Cincinnati, Ohio. The expansion fee could be between $105 million to $120 million, more than double the previous fees and the highest ever in U.S. women's sports. While no agreement is currently in place right now, and it may take weeks, if not months, for the NWSL to give an update, they also plan to update Cleveland and Cincinnati on their statuses. Denver's bid group is led by Robert Cohen of IMA Financial Group, aims to build a new stadium for the club, but will temporarily use another facility, probably Dick's Sporting Goods Park in Commerce City, Colorado. The fee would also be paid in several installments. The NWSL has already added 2 new teams in the last season and will welcome a new team in Boston in 2026, while team values have also significantly increased recently, with the average club now worth over $104 million. I love how both the NWSL folks and the WNBA are going about their expansion. They're being smart about this. And the NWSL folks really got that ball rolling with Angel City, San Diego, Bay FC, and San Jose, and now possibly Cincinnati, Cleveland, or now even Denver, Colorado. And I think, folks, that these are 3 great markets for soccer. 2 of them already have MLS franchises, one in Denver and one in Cincinnati. But Cleveland has always been, I think, a very under-the-radar soccer market. I think back to the days of the Cleveland Crunch and Force back in the indoor days of the MISL, who got to the finals a couple times but lost to San Diego in the late 80s. But more than anything else, though, it's weird not seeing a Kroenke name attached to a Denver sports team. That's one thing. But I love, though, how the NWSL and also the WNBA, how they have gone about their expansion. They've been smart. They've gone to cities that have a big enough population. They've gone to owners who have deep pockets. Again, Joe Lacob with the Golden State Valkyries, Larry Tannenbaum, who will own the Toronto Tempo coming up in a couple of years. They're looking at maybe 6 to 8 new markets for the potential 16th team. And now here we have the NWSL again. They went to Los Angeles. They came to San Diego. They went to Bay Area. And now they're looking at 3 new markets, potentially in Cincinnati, Cleveland, and now even in Denver. Now, if they were smart about this in Denver, they would go to where the Rapids play their home games at Dick's Sporting Goods Park in Commerce. It's already a soccer-specific stadium. It's built there, kind of in the boonies a little bit. It's, suburban Denver. Beautiful stadium, by the way, in the middle of nowhere, but it's a really nice stadium where the Rapids do play. Cleveland, I think, unveiled their plans fairly recently. And then Cincinnati already has an existing stadium at TQL Stadium for FC Cincinnati. But it's so great to see that these leagues are finally expanding, but they're doing it the right way. They're not making the same mistakes of 22 years ago when the WNBA propped up 8 new teams and they all folded or moved to new cities. Now, I do know as a quick footnote that the team in Boston sadly kind of got off on the wrong foot. They had a very questionable marketing campaign talking about balls, but they were talking about soccer balls, but it was misconstrued. And they're also going to rename the club. It was going to be Boss Nation SC, I believe, but they're going to change the name apparently to a different name. But I just love, though, how these leagues are going about it. And I think, though, that going to Denver, great sports city. Again, the Cronkies, what they've done with the Nuggets and the Avalanche, the Rapids, the Mammoth. The Broncos have had a pretty good year in the NFL. The Rockies are the Rockies in baseball. The Rapids have also won MLS Cup before in 2010. So the market makes sense. And I really think that Cleveland and Cincinnati are also great sports towns. The Guardians, the Browns, the Cavs. But part of me thinks that Cleveland gets the WNBA before they get the NWSL. Cavaliers are in talks right now with the WNBA, along with, I believe, 7 other markets, including some other NBA franchises who want in on the league. But I think out of the 3 markets that are vying for the NWSL, I'd go Denver and Cincinnati, Cleveland. Because 2 of those 3 markets have the soccer-specific stadium already available. Dick's Sporting Goods Park in Colorado, TQL Stadium in Cincinnati. But now, though, the average women's soccer team in the NWSL is over $104 million. That is also after the sale of Angel City FC and San Diego Wave to new ownership groups. And Bay FC had a great year in San Jose at PayPal Park. So the 3 new markets in the NWSL are flourishing drastically. Especially down in SoCal here with the Wave and with Angel City. And Bay FC getting into the postseason this year, too, in their first year as an expansion team. I think Boston will do very well, too. Them already supporting the Connecticut Sun. They've come to Boston from Unkinsville, Connecticut in the WNBA for their game at the Garden. Their support of the Boston Fleet in the PWHL. Now the NWSL. So those markets, folks, make sense, especially Denver and right now Cincinnati. They're a little bit ahead right now of Cleveland just with the fact they have a stadium already in place for soccer, as is. All right, folks, into our final segment here of press clippings. 3 stories that we could not get to in their entirety today, but we'll give you kind of a Cliff Notes version of these 3 burning stories happening in sports across the media and announcing and business side of things. Shocking on Sunday that NFL Red Zone was shown with ads in a small commercial break or breaks when they promised 7 hours of commercial-free football. But ads did show up during NFL Red Zone as fans reacted very strongly to double box ads on the NFL Red Zone channel, which is offered or often seen as being 7 hours of commercial-free football. The NFL does not plan to test these ads again until at least next season, while over 16,000 people took to Twitter and social platforms to decry the ads that were on the platform. That's false advertising. You promise NFL fans 7 hours of commercial-free football. That doesn't mean a 15-second ad gets played for Lowe's hardware stores, you idiots. Figure it out. And that better not be the norm for Red Zone. You can't be like NFL Game Day Live where you do show games, but then you go to commercial break like every 5 minutes because you have to get in all the King's Hawaiian ads for Peyton and Eli Manning. They don't need the damn revenue from those ads. And the customer and consumer gets gypped here because what if there was a play that happened? Oh, wait, we have to sit through a quick ad courtesy of Gatorade. And have to hear that fiend song on that Gatorade ad every time. Again, you promise commercial-free sports for 7 hours on any given Sunday. The NFL better learn. When you promise it, you can't take it back. So if I'm the NFL, I'm looking really deep inside in that next board meeting. Okay, we can't do this ever again. Because like I said, though, earlier in the show, though, NFL on Christmas Day on a Wednesday just to beat the NBA on ratings makes no damn sense. So again, NFL Red Zone, keep it the way it is, please. Case in point. Also, folks, happening, could Pardon the Interruption move to an hour-long program once Around the Horn is officially off the air next summer? You might recall, but ESPN is currently in talks to reportedly cancel the long-standing Around the Horn talk show after over 20 years of service on ESPN by now extending Pardon the Interruption to become a full hour-long talk show. Plan B, though, could be involving a new show featuring former NFL great Shannon Sharpe, who recently joined ESPN and also signed a recent contract extension. The rationale behind, though, canceling ATH still is unclear. I still want to know why ATH is being canceled. I still don't understand, though, why a program that's been crushing ratings for 23 years all of a sudden gets canceled. This is the problem I have with ESPN. They regurgitate the same on-air talent almost every flipping show. Like I say, folks, I don't wake up at 7 a.m. to hear Skip or, Stephen A. Smith, Mad Dog Russo, Mike Greenberg, Molly Curum, and Shannon Sharpe and other people. I don't want to wake up and listen to them bark and yell and bitch and moan and scream at each other at 7 o'clock in the morning when I haven't had my first sip of coffee. That just does not sell for television. I love Shannon Sharpe, folks, but I just feel like that when you keep showing the same people on the air every day on ESPN, it gets redundant. I'm sorry. And I love, though, that Shannon has, really, embraced the media role. I know he was great. I loved him on CBS when he was doing CBS back in the day. And his podcast has exploded in popularity. I love it. But please stop oversaturating the TV sets with Stephen A. Smith every 2 hours. And I love PTI. Again, I've long said that my favorite time slot on ESPN is 2 to 3 p.m. every weekday because of Around the Horn and because of Pardon the Interruption. Again, I really hate to say that, but I'm over regurgitating and re-airing the same talent every program. Because I think people just get tired of the same takes and the same stuff over and over and over again. Now, I think it'd be great if Shannon had his own program, though. That'd be absolutely amazing. But like I said, I would really hope that those Around the Horn panel members and Tony Reali get to keep their jobs at ESPN when Around the Horn is ultimately canceled. And I wish they would reverse course, change the show format. But if the ratings are great, why change? The old thing of why, if it ain't broke, why fix it? Again, I just think that ESPN is kind of in a way missing the bullseye and the target every day. Again, I don't want to criticize you if you wake up to watch those guys in the morning or in the midday. I just think when you see the same cast of characters from the time you wake up until maybe SportsCenter coming on the air in the early afternoon, I can't get on board for it. And especially mainly when it's all NFL talk. You know, it's the Entertainment Sports Programming Network for a reason. This isn't NFL Network or NBA TV. You're supposed to cater to every sport out there, whether you like it or not. And I'd love to see an hour of Tony Kornheiser and Mike Rolbon. I have loved and admired them so much for their entire time on ESPN. And that would be interesting, though, if they did a full hour show. Maybe Tony Reali goes back to being stat boy. That'd be amazing. But I digress. Just why cancel ATH? You know, if the ratings were like 75% disapproval, then maybe. But I just still don't understand that. This story I've teased a couple of times here when talking about the NBA. But on Tuesday, Jason McIntyre went medieval on a rival TV show and a TV network. Viewership for the NBA has been declining increasingly and also recently, particularly during NBA Cup broadcast, and it faces competition from the NFL on Christmas Day. But FS1 producer and the Herd's co-host, Jason McIntyre, suggests, though, that Inside the NBA on TNT is the sole reason why NBA viewership is down, arguing on the Herd with Colin Cowherd on Tuesday, rather than promoting the league, Inside the NBA frequently criticizes players and their playing styles rather than showcase the game and talk about the game in a positive manner. Wow. So who took a piss in Jason McIntyre's Wheaties on Tuesday morning? I applaud Jason McIntyre, though, for having the cojones to fire a shot across the bow and punch Inside the NBA on TNT right in the mouth by basically saying that this is not how you promote the sport. You don't sit here and critique and criticize every little thing about players and their playing styles and teams that you don't like. Again, folks, there is plenty of reasons why the NBA viewership is not doing great this year. It is not because of the NBA Cup. It's what was kind of in a way put out by myself earlier today on the program of there's factors out there. Again, they were facing competition from the election, the World Series, load management, players getting hurt, players sitting out games. Again, there is more to the story than just the NBA Cup that no one out there likes but Callan McClurg. But for Jason McIntyre, producer, co-host with Colin Cowherd, fill-in host when Colin's on vacation, for J-Mac to take that swing and say, no, you know why the ratings suck? Because TNT enjoys nitpicking every little thing about the NBA players. Which kind of went to my point a little bit earlier in the show, that though I love that show and I love TNT's coverage, but I see where J-Mac's coming from. You have the legend himself, Ernie Johnson, alongside three former players who played in a different era of the NBA. That's another reason why ratings are down. No, not the NBA Cup, folks. Too many three-point attempts and a lot of Ole Matador defense. But I see, though, where J-Mac's coming from when he says you're supposed to promote the positives and talk about games and not start beefs with players on teams you don't like or players you don't like. And I can kind of understand that point. Because here Ernie Johnson is being the Callan McClurg in a way of that panel, but yet he's dealing with 3 former players of a different era. They're cut from a different cloth of NBA lore and history. Back when guys played every night, unless you were actually injured. But I get it, though. Chuck with his commentary about the Rockets, they don't know how to play the game. They're stupid. How they pick on Joel Embiid, though I did tonight, though, too. But I can see why people might turn away. This isn't how you're supposed to cover and discuss the games. Cheap shots below the belt towards Joel Embiid or Kawhi Leonard or Austin Reeves or whatever. That's not how you talk about games. It's fair to give constructive criticism about a guy missing a screen and roll and missing a shot, but not criticizing a player for sitting out a game after someone in his family dies or passes away. Then you go and spew baloney on TV or in the newspaper. And then you kind of, in a way, F around and find out when you get shoved by the player that you talk garbage about. But is it also maybe some small pettiness or some small, in a way, maybe small, pettiness that Fox didn't get the rights to the NBA because of TNT losing the rights, and that J-Mac thought that they should have gotten the rights for the NBA and not NBC or Amazon Prime? Some jealousy, maybe? But to the other point that Jason McIntyre made, it's not about the NBA taking election day off to let people vote, or about being woke or being left or right on the political spectrum. That has nothing to do with it. Please miss me with that BS. It's about the fact that every NBA game right now is the same exact thing over and over. Get a rebound, shoot a 3, miss the shot, rebound, shoot a 3, miss the shot, rebound, and go down the floor. It's not the NBA Cup that no one knows what the hell's going on but me. Or this damn stupid All-Star Game tweet that's been made for February in San Francisco, California. Again, it's one thing to not say that you don't like a team or a player, but it feels a little bit too much when it goes beyond the sidelines and the baselines. Where again, I see, though, where J-Mac's coming from. Look at what MLB Network does, the NFL Network, the NHL Network, NBA TV. They're there recapping the games and talking in a very constructive manner and giving neutral analysis. They're not here airing out grievances against an old ball club that they played for, or they don't like how this guy plays the game. All those below-the-belt shots don't fly on TV. Because then you run the end. Because again, like I said, you run the risk now. Whoever picks Joel Embiid in this All-Star game, you might be in trouble. Because what if Joel takes a swing at you because of your commentary about him not playing? So I think Jason McIntyre might be on a pretty good tangent. That Turner's coverage is kind of, in a way, very much degrading. Not necessarily about the game, but how they kind of, in a way, defamation of character. All the little nitpicking of Joel Embiid or Kawhi Leonard or some player in the league. Again, you're supposed to help elevate the league in the sport, not tear it down because of personal grievances or grudges against certain ball clubs or players. So I think J-Mac might be on a pretty fair point. I don't fully buy it 100%, but I think it's pretty dang relevant. That having to hear people like Stephen A. tear down certain players in sports, hearing Chuck, call out the Rockets about these guys, they stink at playing the game. There's a difference, folks, between constructive criticism. There's a difference between constructive criticism and being a bully. That's more being a bully. Constructive criticism would be, I don't like what they did there. Here's what they could have done differently. But I digress. With that, folks, in mind, we'll see you folks next time here on Press Row. Big thanks to Big B for hanging out late in the evening on a Tuesday morning now, or Wednesday morning now, back in Minnesota. Quick reminder, folks, once more, last shows for the year, December 23rd for C2C at night, and Press Row as now still planned for December 30th. With that in mind, though, folks, have a great rest of your night. We'll see you back here again next week for the final programs of the year for Coast to Coast at Night and for Press Row, folks. Until next time, have a good night.